Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's special interview with a Vice Chair of Medicine, Program Director, and award-winning medical educator and founder of MedQuest, a landmark series for medical test prep, Dr. Conrad Fischer. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, I feel landmark. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a crazy year. We have a lot of new things coming up and a lot of confusion, perhaps some frustration. We have the supplemental ERAS application, structured evaluation letters for IM, and all sorts of changes happening in the medical arena. So where are you at? How are you feeling right now, September 20th, 9 days before the applications go out?
Confused. There was very little meaningful sent out about supplemental application to allow the program directors to know what to do with it. There is a lot of application inflation. One of the most frequently asked questions, how many programs should I apply to? So people keep applying to more and more and more because people are anxious. And so with the supplemental application, I must honestly say, I talked to 2 clinical deans recently, and neither of them really had a clue about what to do with the supplemental form. And the structured evaluation letter is in medicine has not been significantly implemented. So I write lots and lots of them. And these are the structured evaluation letter idea is to try and get an honest letter, particularly as we're moving towards USMLE pass-fail on step 1. And I don't think that the letters are ever going to be honest.
Yeah, and so when people ask you for a letter of recommendation, especially those that you barely have any familiarity with, what's your internal response to that, and what's your external response to the actual students? And do you feel that it's something that is helpful to them to get a letter from the vice chair that they hardly know, or what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, I'll be brutally honest with it because
Please.
you're catching me at exactly the right time.
Yeah.
Where I have to send out 25 letters today. There are a lot of people who write to me who they don't include a picture. They don't put their name on their forms. They send documents that's called CV. So you get 50 emails from people that says, ERAS letter request form for Dr. Fischer. And I depending on my mood, I sometimes say, that's wonderful. I didn't realize you were writing me a letter of recommendation because it's my name on your form.
Yeah.
And so students don't realize that you get judged based on the efficiency and accuracy of how well organized you appear.
Yeah,
the program directors barely remember you. People write in about rotations that they did 6 months ago, 8 months ago, 9 months ago, a year ago, asking for letters. And the fact that people don't put their pictures on things screams disorganization. Like, how are we supposed to remember you? Number 2 is that internally it is painful because it means here's 15, 20, 25 minutes of my life that I'm going to have to take for the student. But externally, because I realize how anxious the students are and that they're not the ones deciding that they need 3 letters of recommendation, I feel sorry for people. So I over say yes. If I was female, I'd be pregnant every month. Okay. I'd be saying yes to too many things. But then again, if men could get pregnant, abortions would be available at Jiffy Lube.
Yeah. So, you said that there's this overinflation of applications and that there's just more confusion being caused from the supplemental ERAS application, basically a meaningless structured evaluation letter. And you said step 1's going to pass fail. And so people are going to be over applying even more. And so what can a program actually look for amidst the hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of applications?
Well, one of the things that your service is for Metro residents is to try to get it so that people can get some rationality to where they're applying. And is it helpful to know to where places that Well, if they don't take visas, why waste your application for, look at the HCA system, right? Has a corporate order, no visas for the whole system. So
Mhm.
that would be a wasted application for people.
Right.
Or if people are applying and you're an international grad and they go, oh, this place simply tries to never take an IMG. And so that's unfortunate because my own program is so heavily predominant with international grads. Like, would I like everybody to know? Yes, sure. For me, it's the opposite here, is that down here, a categorical position from one of the first run US schools, it's like, well, they're not going to come down to central Brooklyn where I'm at.
Mhm.
So I think that I wish there was some rationality where people knew definitely where they'd be made welcome and not welcome. And the structured evaluation letter is a mystery to us about what's going to go on. Right? It's an attempt to try to bring honesty to letters. But remember, at the end of the day, the dean of the medical school does not want to have to say to people, oh, we had 10 students who went unmatched. We got to get all these cars off the lot.
Mhm. Yeah. So when you actually are looking through the applications, what do you start looking for?
Well, the amount of information that's given at the on the opening screen, even things that used to be like if people had failed USMLE are no longer flagged on the opening screen.
Hmm.
People come down and get reduced to schools, scores, visa status, schools, scores, some places, some places will not take any visas, and some people love visas. There's no doubt that my program has a much higher USMLE score. My program will have a much higher USMLE score because I take visas and can give both J and H visas.
Mhm.
So I don't look for them, but I think it allows me to have a much higher quality of person.
Right. And you feel that test scores are a good metric for first screening for, the quality of
Yeah,
care
well,
and
the
performance
problem
in
is
residency.
it's the only objective measure.
Right.
So if we're saying, look, the other good thing about relaxing about letters is that at worst, they're bland. At worst, they don't say a whole lot. And then they generally end up being 90% positive.
Right.
Okay, so that is the good news. That is the good news about the letters.
And for the people that you actually start to look into their application, they have good scores. And what are you looking for in terms of the CV, personal statements? Are there other factors that you want to make sure that they have when you're actually reviewing them and determining whether or not they're going to be invited for an interview?
Can you say it again?
When you're actually opening the application beyond, you've seen that they have good scores and you feel like looking further into their credentials, what do you look for in the ERAS application, the personal statements, for any sort of factors that you would like to see to invite them to an interview?
Well, besides scores and schools, because people do have some targeted degree of schools,
Mhm.
I'll also try to have a mix of people that come through, because I don't particularly like having any one group in the residency. In
Mhm.
other words, I don't want anybody from, if I'm doing international schools, I don't like to have any one particular country overrepresented.
Right.
So I will make an attempt to try and have a little bit of a mixed grill appetizer sampler, if I can.
Mhm.
Right, and so that sort of diversity. Weirdly enough, you get a little sense of people from the picture that they send.
Yes,
You get a little feel for things. Um,
absolutely.
Also, you also have to remember that some programs, it's not the program director who's choosing, it's an administrator.
Mhm.
And the administrator is making the choice. They're given criteria by the program director. Get me all the US graduates at this cutoff, get me the internationals at this cutoff, get me the people with visas at this cutoff. The whole CV generally is not looked at the time of selection for interview, because it's be pretty impossible for people to look through 3,000 and 4,000 CVs.
Mhm.
See, if I'm getting 4,000 applicants, I know that it's not really 4,000, because each of those people is applying to 40 to 60 programs.
At
So,
least.
yes, yeah. Yeah, that's why I cringe when some people talk about limiting applications, because I understand why they want to do it, but I think it just punishes the applicant.
Mhm. Because it limits their ability to basically cast a wider net. But
That's
why
right.
exactly? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I understand that all those applications are difficult for the program director, but I dread what I'm going to do 2 years from now when a USMLE has gone past fail and I get one objective metric. Step two.
Mhm. And do you feel like they would ever remove that and make it completely non-numeric for the USMLEs?
I will probably retire.
Okay. Yeah, I can't blame you. So let's say you got somebody to the interview stage. Are you going to be doing virtual interviews this year through your program?
That's a very good question. The answer is we're going to do mixed. For
Okay.
the people who are in New York City and nearest geographically, they can come in. For
Yes.
the people who are further away, I don't think that they have to go through the expense of torturing poor medical students. It's bad enough that they have to go spend money now on the stupid English language test.
Mhm.
And at least they don't have to spend for CS anymore.
Right.
But the thing is that travel, hotel and travel are very expensive. And so therefore, we'll be offering a mixed option, which I think is fair. And I think we did pretty well interviewing by Zoom last year. It wasn't as disappointing as I thought it was going to be.
So what are some of like the top lessons from that experience last year, advice that you would give to applicants for virtual interviews and performing well in that setting?
Control your background. For instance, your background should say something about you. You
Mhm.
know, oh, you look, Fisher, he's a pretty interesting guy. You know what I mean? This is what his mind must look like.
Right.
No, Madonna's heart-shaped statues and Ohm's original
Yes.
artwork from Brooklyn. Your background should say something about you.
Mhm.
Um, we did have one guy who showed up completely pissed drunk in Nepal last year. That was fantastic.
Oh my gosh.
I just came from my wedding.
Wow. I'm assuming he did not get a second interview.
No, we made him chief resident. Yeah, no, he
Okay,
did.
great,
No,
great.
no, he got bounced.
Yeah.
But the issue is choose your background with care.
Mhm.
I think that people do well on appearance, but they don't do well on make eye contact with the camera,
Mhm.
control your background, and it says something about someone who, even if they just make sure that the environment has some flowers, it depends on the person. One guy had a guitar in the background, and I said, "Do you play that thing?" He goes, "Oh yeah." I said, "What do you like to play?" He goes, "John Mayer." I go, "Okay, play me a song," and we give him a contract.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah.
And in terms of people's actual, answering of questions, that doesn't seem to really be so much of a difference in terms of in-person to virtual. You
No,
still get that experience of,
no, I don't think it's an issue at all.
yeah. I wanted to touch on a point that you made a couple minutes ago, real quick, which is the ERAS photograph. So are you looking for a professional headshot in
I
the
think
ERAS
that
photograph?
you have a very narrow window to make an impression,
Yes.
and people should get a lot of input on smiling a little,
Right.
uh, appearance, 3/4 shot, you know, and how it is able to convey a sense of relaxed personability.
Mhm.
Okay, and that to give people a feel for yourself. You know, like, look, here's like, ready? Here's the step 2 book, right? Okay, and so on the back of the step 2 book, I have my picture, and so a little fuzzed out there. But what am I trying to convey? I'm a serious dude. I may teach you something. I may whack you. I have a classic background in what is a Venetian piazza, the Cadoro, okay, because that's an interesting place for me. 14th century Sicilian-inspired Arab traders moving through Italy. And that's what I'm trying to convey. So if I were a student doing a headshot, would I do that picture? No, I wouldn't, because in that case, I'm a student trying to show I have to come across not in command. I have to come across as eager to learn.
Right.
And so that's why those images are so so critical in terms of being able to show a little sense of your personality.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. We have a aspect of our services where we provide photograph reviews and people input passport photos, or it's like a selfie in the car. And we're just like, look,
Yeah,
that's not acceptable. Picture says 1,000 words, if not more, especially in this context.
It is tragic.
Yeah. So I have one.
Tell me.
I'm sorry.
I
I have one more question, which is, you know, we have so many things changing right now for the, you know, application arena. If it was your world, where would you like to see it go?
I wish that step 1 would go back to graded. So the letters, I don't think are ever going to really be useful.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what I think that we have right now, with all of its pimples and difficulties. I think that we have the best system that we're going to have. I really can't think particularly what else to do. People will be very anxious about their personal statements because, after all, it's personal.
Mm-hmm.
And then half the time they don't even read them. The letters tend to all sound either bland or extremely positive. The CVs and showing the research track record don't get looked at till you're on interview. So it doesn't get you the interview. Mm-hmm. Because there's too many. For instance, at fellowship level, where there's only 100 total applicants or 200, you can dig down and actually look at every single one of them. So I don't know that there's a different way on the ERAS way. They tinker with it each year. But I don't know that there's particularly a different way than what we have right now. Mm-hmm. And that's a little disappointing, isn't it? You know, you wish that a guy with as much experience as I do, I've got 20 years of program director and 28 years of USMLE test prep. So the issue is, step 1's going pass fail. Whoever's got that step 2 material, that guy is going to become extremely important.
Right. Well, we'll definitely have to see what your experience was after the supplemental ERAS application actually.
What do you think? What do you think about the supplemental ERAS application?
Well, it was going to be serving different purposes for different programs. It really depends on how they want to incorporate it. You know, the program signaling is going to be a very interesting aspect of that, where, you know, if a program gets signals from, you know, a few hundred people, are they going to prioritize those people, assuming they meet the minimum cutoffs? And, you know, instead of a full CV of 20 experiences, they list just the most 5 meaningful experiences. And it seems the focus is more on why they're meaningful. So it's more of like a mini personal statement CV combined into one thing. And it's definitely has some potential, I feel, for, helping get a quicker snapshot for applicants. But in terms of the actual way they introduced it, a month ago, and everybody's freaking out, and yesterday was the first deadline out of 2 deadlines, and basically confusing the process without providing much information. They said it was required at first, but then they, that was against the NRMP's match agreement, so they had to say it's not required. So there's a lot of ambiguity, but it is something that does seem to be
I think it's
expanding.
like, why did I have that defeated look when you asked me about writing letters of recommendation? Because I don't like to say no to the students. So I want to take care of them. But in the same way, to spring these things on people when people are already tense, I find it cruel.
Yeah.
It's cruel, hurtful. What do you think about this structured evaluation letter?
Well, it could be more meaningful if it was filled out by people that actually know you and have, worked with you in a, direct supervising way. So again, it's one of those things where you have to basically input a lot of information that you may not have firsthand experience with. And that's the same for regular letters of recommendation, depending on who's writing them. And, we have so many people who are asked to write their own letters of recommendation. So, the whole system is very strangely set up. And, the structured evaluation letter seems to be an attempt to normalize that, like the
I
slow.
completely agree with you.
But yeah, hopefully we can get your input once the application cycle gets going a little bit more. And I know you have 25 letters to submit today. So
I think that what you're doing is important. It tries to bring rationality and some guidance to the system. And if I was doing something that was high stakes, I would get some advice about it to at least avoid obvious errors, waste, and wrong turns. I wish there was a Conrad Fischer for Conrad Fischer. So I think it's better to have met and give the perspective at this time, and to do a follow-up later on when we know more about what's there.